In the late fall of 1997, in the rugged Ember Peak wilderness near the mountain outpost of Ocotillo Mesa, Southern California, 33-year-old software architect Antoine Dubois, a highly proficient solo explorer, vanished without a trace. This wasn't a novice mistake. Antoine meticulously planned his annual digital detox into the remote, non-serviced areas of the San Jacinto Mountains, a decade-long quest for the promise of absolute solitude where human voices faded. His manager later recalled that Antoine seemed unusually urgent about this particular trip, needing to disconnect from screens and deadlines. Antoine was universally known for his careful, methodical nature, always filing detailed plans and adhering strictly to safety rules. His condo in La Jolla was organized to the point of obsession, a testament to his hyper-vigilant character. Yet when he failed to return from his planned 6-day hike and missed his weekly Saturday call with his younger sister, Marcelle Dubois, who lived in Montreal, she instantly knew something was terribly wrong. His disappearance was already transforming a simple missing person report into the agonizing family's nightmare, but no one could imagine the horror and disturbing mystery that awaited them when geological surveyors stumbled upon his remains 3 months later in February of 1998. November 12, 1997, Antoine checked into the Desert Star Motel in Ocotillo Mesa, a staging ground for his ambitious, rarely used route through the rocky slopes of Ember Peak. The motel owner, Isabella Reyes, vividly remembered his focused, stoic demeanor as he spent 2 hours poring over old topographical maps, marking waypoints with intense concentration, even after she offered stern warnings about the unpredictable late-season flash floods common in the lower canyons. He was perfectly confident in his abilities, paid for one night, and left his truck keys, promising to return by Friday. The next morning, before dawn, Antoine set out on the Quartz Canyon Trail. A contract park ranger later testified that Antoine was exceptionally well prepared, carrying a heavy pack and looking like a seasoned expert. The trail he chose was infamous for its steep inclines, rock slides, and sudden, dangerous temperature drops, a route that demanded respect, especially so late in the season. When Friday passed without his return, Isabella called the emergency contact, but precious hours were wasted before the official alarm was finally raised, allowing a careful predator to disappear into the vast, unforgiving desert wilderness with the highly proficient solo explorer. Marcelle answered immediately and confirmed that her brother had not contacted her. She flew to San Diego that evening and drove to Canyon Creek to meet with Isabella, reviewing the marked maps. According to the waypoints Antoine had marked, he intended to follow the Quartz Canyon Trail for about 7 miles before branching onto a rarely used, unnamed track that led to a remote, dry lake bed. The route would take him through steep, arid ravines, across several treacherous rock slides, and up switchbacks to an elevation of nearly 5,500 feet. It was undoubtedly an ambitious route for a solo hiker, but not beyond Antoine's documented capabilities. The official search began 4 agonizing days later. San Diego County Search and Rescue deployed teams along the main trail, while a helicopter surveyed the area from above. The police initially treated it like a runaway case, despite the obvious evidence to the contrary, much to the family's immediate dismay. Search dogs initially picked up Antoine's scent along the first few miles of the trail, confirming that he had followed his planned route initially and giving the family a fleeting sense of hope. However, at the precise point where the unnamed path split off toward the remote dry lake bed, the scent disappeared completely, as if Antoine had simply dematerialized. The search teams found no footprints, no disturbed rock cairns, and no signs that anyone had passed through that area recently, which was deeply troubling given the sandy soil. Marcelle stayed in Canyon Creek throughout the initial search, coordinating with the rescue teams and posting flyers. She described her brother over and over and over as someone who always stuck to his plans and never took unnecessary shortcuts or risks. Antoine carried a basic personal locator beacon, PLB, for emergencies, but no distress signal had ever been received. His credit card showed zero activity after his initial purchase of supplies in Canyon Creek, and his cell phone at last pinged a distant tower near the trailhead before falling completely silent, a ghost in the vast network. The search soon expanded to cover nearly 40 square miles of unforgiving wilderness, including areas well beyond Antoine's intended route, but nothing was found. Volunteers from local climbing and hiking clubs joined the extensive effort, and experienced mountaineers checked high-altitude rock shelters where Antoine might have sought protection from the cold. After 2 demoralizing weeks of intensive searching, the operation was inevitably scaled back to periodic sweeps by ranger patrols. The official report listed Antoine Dubois as missing under unknown circumstances, with absolutely no evidence of accidental injury or foul play. His truck remained untouched in the motel parking lot, and his meticulous condo in Loyola was left exactly as he had arranged it before leaving. Marcel hired a private investigator, former Border Patrol Detective Leo Moreau, who specialized in missing person cases in the desert wilderness areas that bordered Mexico. Leo reviewed all the evidence and conducted additional, in-depth interviews with motel staff and other hikers who had been in the general area during Antoine's trip. He found no new leads, but noted several significant inconsistencies in the timeline and witness statements that troubled him deeply, particularly concerning a lone, older utility truck seen near the trailhead the morning Antoine set out. The family says they were dismissed by the sheriff's office, who seemed intent on closing the file. The case initially attracted a flurry of attention from niche hiking forums and missing person advocacy groups. But as the dry winter turned into spring, public interest, tragically, began to fade. Marcel continued to visit Canyon Creek monthly, hiking sections of the trail herself and leaving heartbreaking messages for her brother along the route. She desperately held on to the hope that Antoine might have suffered a severe injury that left him unable to communicate, but still alive somewhere in the silent, vast wilderness. The motel owner, Isabella Reyes, kept Antoine's room reservation open for months, refusing payment from other guests who might have used it, as she had grown immensely fond of Marcel during her frequent, painful visits and wanted to help however she could. By February, the brief, seasonal snows had melted from all but the highest peaks, and the arid landscape had transformed from the stark terrain Antoine would have encountered in November. Small, resilient wildflowers bloomed in the desert washes. It was during this season of slight renewal that a team of geological surveyors working for the State Environmental Department made a startling discovery that would immediately reopen Antoine's cold case, raising devastating questions that no one reported and no one was prepared to answer, launching the entire case into a horrifying new trajectory. The surveyors were conducting routine soil and seismic samples in a remote, unnamed canyon approximately 10 miles from Antoine's planned route when they noticed something highly unusual protruding from the cracked ground near a cluster of stunted, ancient desert cedar trees. What they found challenged everything investigators thought they knew about Antoine Dubois's disappearance and introduced possibilities that seemed to belong more in a grim folk tale than a missing person file. The discovery would reveal that Antoine's fate was far stranger and infinitely more disturbing than anyone had imagined, strongly suggesting that his disappearance was not the simple result of a hiking accident or getting temporarily lost in the wilderness, but something far more sinister that had been carefully planned and deliberately executed by someone who knew these specific mountains better than any map could show. Unbelievably, the sole of a hiking boot was visible, positioned sole up as if someone had been interred head first with only their feet remaining above the desert floor. The geological survey team, led by Dr. Elias Vance, immediately realized the horrifying implication of their finding. The boot was still clearly attached to a leg, and that leg disappeared into the dry, rocky earth at an impossibly unnatural angle. The leather was deeply weathered, but not significantly decomposed, suggesting the burial had occurred mere months rather than years ago. Equipment technician Roy Daniels immediately called for a complete halt to their work and contacted the San Diego County Sheriff's Office using their high-frequency satellite phone. Sergeant Diaz arrived at the remote scene 8 hours later, accompanied by a small, specialized search and rescue team. The location was incredibly isolated, nestled deep in a dry tributary canyon, requiring a long, difficult hike in. Sergeant Diaz's first crucial observation was that the burial site appeared to have been deliberately chosen for its profound remoteness and perfect natural concealment. The stunted cedars provided excellent natural camouflage, and the surrounding terrain was virtually invisible from any established trail or logical viewpoint. Someone had meticulously selected this specific location with careful consideration for avoiding discovery, strongly suggesting an intimate, expert knowledge of the area that went far beyond casual familiarity. The initial, cautious examination revealed that the body had been buried in an upright, vertical position, head down, with the feet deliberately positioned just below the desert surface. The soil around the burial site was packed tightly, indicating that considerable focused effort had been made to ensure the body remained permanently in the specific inverted position. Sergeant Diaz noted that this type of burial would have required significant physical strength and careful prior planning, as well as specialized tools for digging in the hard mountain soil. The unusual positioning was not random or accidental, but appeared to follow a specific, disturbing methodology that clearly suggested ritual or symbolic meaning, deepening the mystery and the sense of horror. The county medical examiner, Dr. Anya Sharma, arrived the following morning with a full forensic team. The difficult extraction process took most of a long day as the team worked with painstaking care to preserve any and all evidence that might explain the bizarre circumstances. When the body was finally recovered, it was immediately apparent that this was not a typical burial or even a typical homicide. The deceased was fully clothed in hiking gear that matched the detailed description of Antoine Dubuis's equipment, including the distinct forest green jacket that Marcel had described. More disturbing was the condition of the body, which showed signs of having been positioned with meticulous ritualistic care rather than simply shoved into a hole. Dr. Sharma's preliminary examination indicated that the likely cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, but the injury pattern was deeply unusual. Rather than the random violence typically seen in assault or robbery cases, the fatal trauma appeared to have been inflicted with disturbing precision, suggesting either a high level of medical knowledge or, curiously, experience with similar, precise acts again and again. The soil analysis of the boot treads revealed unique mineral compositions that did not match any area along Antoine's intended planned path, which was baffling. The discovery location was approximately 10 miles from Antoine's planned route in terrain that would have been extremely difficult and time-consuming to reach while carrying a body. This strongly suggested either that Antoine had been killed immediately at the burial site, or that his killer possessed exceptional, almost unnatural, physical strength and an intimate, unparalleled knowledge of the area's obscure trails. The extreme remoteness of the location also indicated that whoever had done this was familiar with the survey schedules and patrol patterns of local park rangers, suggesting a predatory professional. Marcel Dubois was notified of the horrifying discovery that evening and arrived in Canyon Creek the next morning for the formal identification process. According to Sergeant Diaz's report, she confirmed the clothing and personal effects belonged to her beloved brother. Marcel's reaction was described as controlled grief, rapidly mixed with profound confusion about the circumstances of the macabre burial. She repeatedly, tearfully asked why someone would bury Antoine in such a bizarre, inverted manner, and the investigators had absolutely no answers to offer. The ritual aspects of the crime were unlike anything in their collective experience. The investigation team was immediately expanded to include FBI behavioral analysts, as the case now clearly involved homicide with highly unusual characteristics that might strongly indicate a long-active serial offender, or possibly a bizarre cult. The inverted position of the body was particularly troubling, as it appears in various obscure occult and folk traditions as a definitive method of preventing the deceased from finding eternal peace. Perhaps most troubling, Dr. Elias Vance's team, working carefully to map the soil strata, discovered additional, highly incriminating evidence buried beneath Antoine's body. Wrapped in heavy, waterproof plastic were several personal items that clearly did not belong to the victim. A small silver compass engraved with the initials JV, a man's high-end watch containing identification for someone named Luis Chavez, and a small, older digital camera with a severely cracked lens. The items immediately appeared to be gruesome trophies taken from other, likely abducted victims, carefully preserved and buried as an essential part of the chilling ritual. Agent James Caldwell, the FBI's criminal profiler, immediately ran the identification found in the wallet through statewide missing person databases and discovered that Luis Chavez had vanished while hiking in the vast Anza Borrego Desert 24 months earlier. His case, tragically, had been classified as an accidental disappearance. The digital camera contained partially corrupted files that the FBI's technical team worked relentlessly to recover. What they painstakingly found provided the first direct, terrifying evidence of the killer's methodical nature and twisted mindset. The recovered images showed various, well-known hiking trails throughout Southern California and Baja, but they were not typical landscape photographs. Instead, they appeared to be systematic surveillance images of solo hikers taken from concealed, distant positions using powerful telephoto lenses. The subjects were clearly unaware they were being photographed, going about their normal activities of setting up remote camps, cooking simple meals, and consulting their maps. Each recovered image was meticulously time-stamped, and the metadata revealed that some photos had been taken weeks or even months before the hikers reported disappearances. This high level of patience and planning indicated a highly organized offender with significant, specialized outdoor skills and an intimate knowledge of the regional trail systems. And the sad, strange disappearance of Antoine Dubois was just one event in a long pattern. The pattern suggested that the killer had been selecting victims specifically because their disappearances would be easily attributed to natural causes rather than foul play or trafficking. Marcel became an unofficial liaison between the families of other potential victims, organizing meetings and sharing crucial information that the official investigation had shamefully overlooked. She discovered that all the victims shared specific characteristics beyond their preference for solo hiking. They were all in their mid-30s to early 40s, highly physically fit, and worked in technical or professional fields that required extreme attention to detail and long-term planning. Most significantly, they all used the same obscure, encrypted online hiking forum to research trails and share trip reports, which provided the first concrete digital lead about how the killer might be identifying and selecting his targets. This online monitoring suggested a deeper, frightening level of psychological manipulation, and claims emerged tying this case to trafficking networks focusing on wealthy, organized victims. The FBI Cybercrime Unit analyzed the hiking forum's user data and discovered that someone using multiple, fake accounts had been systematically monitoring posts about solo hiking trips in remote areas for years. The digital stalking was traced to an IP address range in rural Riverside County, leading agents to a heavily fortified property in the Cascade Foothills, owned by a man named Silas Kincaid, a 47-year-old former Forest Service firefighter who had been dismissed from his position 6 years earlier following numerous complaints about excessive aggression and bizarre behavior. The search of his abandoned property after he fled revealed a chilling handwritten journal that described the killer's dark philosophy about returning hikers to the earth in a way that honored their connection to the wilderness. The inverted burial position, the journal revealed, was part of his personal mythology, representing the hiker's forced journey from the surface world into the earth's permanent, spiritual embrace, which was his warped promise to them. The journal entries revealed that Kincaid viewed his actions not as murder, but as a severe, twisted form of spiritual service, leading the investigation team to believe many believe there's a cover-up that reaches into high places to avoid panic about an organized cult. The trail of evidence was long, suggesting that the initial lackadaisical police response allowed the killer to operate unimpeded for years. The family's nightmare led to Marcel's tireless work. She turned grief into activism, demanding accountability and better search protocols. Her fight was not just for Antoine, but for all the victims who were classified as accidents. The entire case began to spiral into confusion, contradiction, and things that don't add up, especially when the initial police reluctance was factored in. Some will call that incompetence. Others call it something darker. The full scope of Kincaid's depravity was revealed, but the community was left forever scarred. These fragments build a picture that never quite completes, a picture of a system that failed the missing again and again.